Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Jayson Tatum couldn't make a shot in a do-or-die Game 6 against the 76ers. Then he beat them almost by himself in the fourth quarter. Also, the Nuggets emphatically dispatched the Suns, and you can add the New York Giants to the list of people perturbed by Aaron Rodgers. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Boston Celtics were fighting for their playoff lives in Philadelphia, and Jayson Tatum could not make a shot. Then in the fourth quarter, he erupted for 16 points. He became the first NBA player in the last 20 years to have 3 or fewer points through 3 quarters of a playoff game, and then proceed to outscore the entire opponent in the fourth quarter to secure a 95-86 win. Laughing at that stat, John Corrales from Locked On Celtics from the Philadelphia arena. And John, I would ask what changed. What changed is the shots started going in, but what changed?
The shots started going in. And it's as simple as that. Look, Jayson Tatum had a really, really rough shooting game. But to be fair, he didn't have a overall bad basketball game. He was rebounding and he had assists. He had, he was playing defense. He had blocked a couple of shots. He was playing, I don't want to say he was playing well, right? He wasn't playing great, but he wasn't sulking. He wasn't doing the other stuff that you might expect a star player who had been suffering through an 0 for everything type of night. But yeah, he just stuck to it. I think early in the fourth quarter, he got himself to the free throw line. He kind of grifted his way there. He kind of a couple of rip through moves and got a couple, just saw a couple go in at the free throw line. And eventually that shot started to fall. Once the first one went in, it was just like a weight off his shoulders, and he started to feel that kind of energy come back into his shot, and he hit a few of them. And at the same time, the Sixers were kind of letting things slip away, and this is the result.
There was a stretch where it seemed like each team was desperate to give this game away. It was like, do you want to win? No. Do you want to win? No. And then Tatum hits a couple big shots at the end. Defensively for Boston, the Sixers shoot 36% from the field, 23.5% from three. What did you see defensively from Boston that led to what was really a struggle all night?
Well, it starts with Robert Williams. Rob was in the game to start and gave the Celtics a real boost as far as, some rim protection, and he forced the Sixers to make some adjustments there. They put in Georges Niang, who helped them, but it took away PJ Tucker for a little while, and it just kind of that little chess match back and forth. Mostly Robert Williams being able to help off of somebody, protect the rim, get some rebounds, get some tip outs, just be the guy who I saw a couple of rebounds where it was going right to Joel Embiid's hands, and Rob was there to slap it out of his hands, and he didn't get the stat and he didn't get the rebound, but it was just somebody who could be active around the rim and active in pressuring the other team. And like guys like Tyrese Maxey, when they get into the lane and you just see Robert Williams coming at you, and you're like, oh God, I got to get this floater up another inch so it can maybe go over the top of him. And that just throws it off a little bit. So those little things that he does matter. And after the game, everybody who was asked about the starting lineup was thrilled to see Robert Williams out there.
Yeah, sometimes the plus minus in a game can be misleading. He was a team high plus 18 in this game, and you felt his effect on the game. Late in the fourth quarter, the 76ers offense fell completely apart. How much of that was things that you felt like Boston was doing defensively versus Philly just kind of being tight?
I think some tightness definitely crept into it. There's no doubt about it. It is funny because even Jaylen Brown said, yeah, they missed a few shots. They helped us out a little bit. And yeah, it's true. It's true. I think, look, history means something here. And the Sixers are trying to get past the second round for the first time in the Joel Embiid era. They're trying to do it against the Boston Celtics, who have historically had their number. But in this series, the addition of James Harden, I think, kind of highlights just how much Ben Simmons was a detriment to Joel Embiid, because it really gave the Celtics the ability to help off of a star player and defend him really well. Now that's not here, and Joel can really put a hurt on the Celtics, and that really matters here. But the history, I think, does creep in and say, hey, here's your chance. Here's the closeout. It's in front of these fans. And it turns into all right, let's not screw this up. But it's the classic play not to lose. And then all of a sudden you end up losing. You don't want to give a guy like Jayson Tatum life, and you had him down. But just like The Undertaker, he just pops straight up and he says, aha, let me hit you with this tombstone and put you out and force a Game 7.
Stay up to date all year on the Boston Celtics by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Celtics on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports today your first listen. Coming up, the Nuggets left no doubt in their series-clinching win over the Suns on Thursday. Before we get to that, we look at the finer points of the newly minted NFL schedule. Looking for a delicious snack but don't want all the sugar and the calories? Of course you do. We all do. Then you need the best tasting protein bar ever built. You have to try them. If you haven't, I have them almost every single day. What makes them so good, you might ask? Good question. For starters, covered in 100% real dark chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And what's better is they're healthy. Only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait for a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering Built Bars at Built.com, and you still can do that. I often do. Or you can just go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club and get whatever you want to just take home with you. A box of Built Bars that you can go get at the store. It's amazing. It's here. Go do it. Go to Sam's Club. Get a 13-bar box if you want. Brownie batter puff, churro puff. Go get them now. What are you waiting for? Go. The NFL announced its schedule for the 2023 season that will begin September 7th when the Chiefs and Lions, kick off at Arrowhead. The defending Super Bowl champs get to host a couple of marquee games, with the Eagles coming to KC in Week 11, the Bengals on New Year's Eve. A few other notable matchups. Week 13 features a rematch of the NFC Championship in Philadelphia between the Eagles and the 49ers. Week 8, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud get together as the Panthers take on the Texans. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have not one, but 2 primetime games. They will have their first Monday night game in 12 years when they host the Bengals in Week 13, and their first Sunday night game in 15 years when they host the Ravens in Week 15. Turns out having an actual NFL head coach and a franchise quarterback does wonders for your Q rating. In NBA playoff news, Golden State Warriors wing Andrew Wiggins is questionable for Friday's Game 6 of the Western Conference semifinals against the LA Lakers with an injury to his rib cage. Wiggins was instrumental in the Warriors' Game 5 win Wednesday, finishing with 25 points on 10 of 18 shooting, with 7 rebounds and 5 assists. Coach Steve Kerr called it Wiggins' best game since he returned from a 2-month absence at the start of the playoffs. It's unclear when the injury occurred. Also worth noting here, the LA Lakers are expecting Anthony Davis to also play. The New Jersey Devils pushed it all the way to overtime, but the Carolina Hurricanes put them away in Game 5. Jesper Fast deflected a Jesperi Kotkaniemi shot past Devils goalie Akira Schmid on a power play in overtime for the series-clinching goal. New Jersey was making its first appearance in the second round since 2012, following the most successful regular season in franchise history. This is Carolina's first trip to the conference finals since 2019. Hurricanes await the winner of the Florida Panthers-Toronto Maple Leafs series. Meanwhile, the Stars and Kraken were just looking to gain some kind of advantage.
The Dallas Stars now find themselves in control of their second round series over the Seattle Kraken after a huge 5-2 home win in Game 5. Hey, everybody, this is Dane Lewis with the Locked On Stars podcast. And the Dallas Stars are right back where they need to be in this series. One win away from going back to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since 2020. When they went there in the Edmonton bubble, back when they eventually made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. But a ton riding on this Game 5, and the Dallas Stars and their best players delivered. Wyatt Johnston gets his third career playoff goal, and Roope Hintz is starting to heat back up after he cooled off for a little bit at the start of this series. He was excellent in round 1 against Minnesota, and he now has 2 goals here in Game 5, his 7th and 8th of the postseason. He also picks up an assist on Joe Pavelski's goal. He now has 7 in this series, which is unbelievable for a player who is playing at age 38, coming off of a really bad head injury in round 1. Jason Robertson getting involved in the action as well, picking up a couple of assists in this game, not scoring goals like we want him to be, but still finding ways to be involved and setting up his teammates Roope and Joe for success. And Jake Ottinger also very good, only allowing 2 goals and coming up with some key saves down the stretch of the game.
On the diamond, the Cincinnati Reds chose to go the bullpen day for the rubber match with the New York Mets, and things actually went better than you'd expect.
That's a $450 million shutout right there. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast, and the Reds had a bullpen day in the rubber match with the New York Mets, and they shut them out. Yeah, we're talking about a lineup full of guys who could probably hit 3rd or 4th in this Reds lineup, and the Reds absolutely dominated them. Beautiful performance by the bullpen, Derek Law. Then you go to Ben Lively. Then you got Lucas Sims. You got Kevin Herget in there. It feels like we got a ton of guys that just came in and absolutely pitched lights out. And, of course, Kevin Herget with the wonderful 3-inning save. That whole, weird rule that Major League Baseball has with the save rule. But hey, Reds get the series win over the New York Mets. That's right. The Reds won 2 out of 3 over the New York Mets.
Something about the Phoenix Suns and elimination games the last 2 years, they have not been close. This one, a 125-100 beatdown at the hands of the Denver Nuggets to send the Nuggets to the Western Conference Finals. Matt Moore from Locked On Nuggets joins me now. And Matt, this was a series that was nip and tuck until it wasn't in this game. So why wasn't it? And is it just as simple as, well, the Suns had no players?
I think, one, I'm not sure the series was a nip and tuck as it kind of makes it sound. It took such a legendary performance from Booker in both games in Phoenix, shooting 80% from the field. And if you notice, those games were still within margin, right? Yeah. Like the Nuggets were within range in both of those games versus being comfortably ahead when they played kind of to capacity. The margin for error here is what was really huge. And I think what's interesting from an NBA perspective may be that we're seeing kind of an evolution, maybe a little bit away from some of the superstar teams where it's like, well, they've got Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, so their margin for error is really huge. No, it wasn't enough because the Nuggets were better in every conceivable category and they had the best player in the series. As amazing as Devin Booker was in games 3 and 4, and I was at those games, and those are 2 of the best scoring performances I've ever seen. The way Jokic kind of shapes the game in all facets, what he does all over. And honestly, the way that the Nuggets defended, that's not going to get talked about enough. The Nuggets had a really good defensive game plan in the series, and they really kind of boiled up and took over in this game. They wore out the Suns over the course of the first 5 games and then hit them with the haymaker. And the Suns quite simply did not have anything to respond with. They're without Chris Paul. They're without DeAndre Ayton. Those things have to be accounted for. You're missing 2 starters in an elimination game. But when Denver is this dominant, and they were this dominant in games 1, 2, and 5, I think when we look at the overall picture of the series, the Nuggets are simply better.
Yeah, Nikola Jokic, 32, 10, and 12 in this one. Just a casual 30-point triple-double for Jokic. And this is a team now that has the Western Conference in front of it, which I guess you could say they did coming into this playoffs. They were the #1 seed for a reason, right? So is this one of those things where narratively You think this can swing back for Denver? Because there's been a lot of focus on the Warriors and the Lakers. And it's like, have you been watching? The best team plays in Denver.
It's not going to swing narratively, and I'm not somebody that blames the media very often, but look, some of the major stakeholders and partners are very determined to only talk about whoever comes out of that other series. They haven't wanted to talk about the Nuggets all year. It's been like, oh yeah, Nuggets, they're a good team. Boy, we look over here, look at the 8th seed now. Oh, and so look, Lakers, Warriors, both those teams are championship certified. The Nuggets are not. And Anthony Davis is a heck of a matchup for Nikola Jokic. If there's one guy you want, probably it's Anthony Davis. If there's one guy you want to attack them on defense, probably Steph Curry. So it's going to be a tough series. Denver's work is far from done. This next series is going to be tougher because both those teams are honestly a little bit better than what the Suns were by the end of this one. But I do think that the Nuggets should be favored. The Nuggets should be talked about more. The Nuggets should be recognized not only for having been the 1 seed, but they've been the team in the playoffs that's taking care of business. Celtics and Sixers are going 7. Lakers and Warriors are going to 6, and those are 2 teams that weren't even the higher seeds. The team that has taken care of business in the playoffs most emphatically and has shown that they have been the best has been Denver consistently game to game.
What has been different for them defensively? Because it's not just in the playoffs, though they've been even better in the playoffs, but this season in general.
So one thing that's been true of the Jokic Nuggets has been that they find answers in the playoff series defensively. Like that's kind of been their answer, quite honestly. They couldn't do it when they were starting Austin Rivers and Facu Campazzo, but overall, when they've had their fully healthy roster, they tend to find answers and their defense tends to be better. They had a really great game plan in this series.
Stay up to date all year on the Nuggets by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Nuggets on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, one New York team is not happy about the schedule release, and it isn't the one with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. The NFL schedule release revealed plenty of primetime games for the New York Jets and their brand new signal caller, Aaron Rodgers. It also had an intriguing consequence for the New York Giants, as Locked On Giants host Patricia Traina points out.
I mentioned that they are the first team to play 7 of their first 10 games on the road. That, according to Warren Sharp of Sharp Football Stats. The Giants have back-to-back road games in weeks 2 and 3, 5 and 6, and 9 and 10. All right, so weeks 2 and 3, they have Arizona and San Francisco. This Frisco game, by the way, being a Thursday night game. So the Giants will probably stay out on the West Coast for those 2 games. Then in weeks 5 and 6, they are at Miami, and then they go up to Buffalo the following week. And then finally, weeks 9 and 10, they're at the Raiders, and then they go to Dallas the following week. So that's a really tough stretch of games. But you know what? We're going to find out what these Giants are made of. We're going to find out based on how they do in this initial stretch. Was last year really a mirage? You know, when they were beating the teams and they qualified for the playoffs with a 9-7-1 record, had the Giants taken a step forward? This first half of the season is going to answer a lot of questions for us. Just how far the Giants have come and how far they still have to go.
It seems obvious to me the culprit here. Why are the Jets playing so many home games early in their season? Because the NFL wants Aaron Rodgers on their screens, not Daniel Jones. Sorry, Daniel Jones. This is just the unfortunate reality when you share a stadium. You do not get preferential treatment if the other team has a star bigger than anyone on your team, star bigger than anyone on almost any other team, for that matter. The NFL wants to see Aaron Rodgers in prime time, at home, early in the season, before the weather gets bad, when he's probably not going to play as well. Let's be honest. The guy is almost 40. And one little nugget